Boris Johnson waters down planning reforms. Welcome everybody to another planning news update. And I'm joined again today by the fabulous Linda Wright, who is going to guide us and steer us through this latest proposal. Welcome, Linda, today. How are you?
Hi, Andrew. I'm fine. Who? Me? Do the steering? Oh my God, no.
So, Linda, Boris Johnson has come out and this once in a generation review that we covered last year in this video that was being undertaken to completely rewrite the National Planning Policy Framework, if I can get my words out, the NPPF for short.
Yeah.
It appears that Boris is doing a bit of a U-turn. Now, from what I'm understanding and from what is being said, the biggest part of that proposal was this new zoning system, which I love, you hate. Shall we call it Marmite, just for the purposes of this video?
Yeah, planning Marmite. Yeah, that's a good one.
Planning Marmite. Now, the reason that's being given for Boris doing a U-turn is he's under pressure from the NIMBYs. Now, we did a video on the King NIMBY here last week, and we were predicting that this was going to happen, unlike all the other press that was saying, no, it's going to be great that we've got Govin. He's going to drive these reforms through. So I'm not saying we told you so, but we do lead and we do forecast the trends accurately. So, Linda, what are people saying about these reforms and what's your take on it? Please.
Right, Andrew, where do we start with this? Now, people will have seen there's been an FT article on this. This is not, everybody's saying it's Boris watering things down. Well, it's not Boris on his own. Yeah, again, the FT article said he was a bit wobbly because of the by-election that got lost and the Lib Dems won, because people are again this whole zoning system, the new zoning system that was being touted in the planning bill, the new planning bill. Not the NPP, the NPPF, we've had the reform of the NPPF that has been done a couple of months back. So that's been done. So it was all about last autumn, there was released the planning bill, and the planning bill was purporting to introduce this new zoning system that arguably would take the planning decisions for housing and other development out of the hands of the local people, and there would be swathes of areas zoned, and within those zones it would be tantamount to planning being approved, or if you like, rubber stamped for certain development in these different zones. I have worked in this system. I've said before, and I bore people with it, I've worked for the government of Bermuda, which had a zoning system. Equally, I used to work for the Home Builders Federation, who were the lobbyist group for volume house builders. I've also worked for 2 volume house builders. So I've been on the other side, if you like, and I've seen this. I'm not convinced. I think on the one hand, the FT article is saying, oh, developers are terribly, terribly disappointed. And some have been quoted saying it's incredibly disappointing. But to be perfectly honest, is it really? We've had a slowdown of house building. You know, Boris and the government's target is 300,000 houses per year. Now, they're saying that 2019 we did 241,000. I don't know what the numbers are for last year and what they're coming up to for this year, for 2021, but it sure as hell ain't 300,000, I can tell you that now. Now, that is not because of the planning system, it's because of the global pandemic, and it's because of shortage of materials and cost of materials and delays and, you know, no drivers and no commute, all of this sort of stuff. So there's lots of things going on. But if we go back to this watering down of the planning system, or the planning reforms as they were purported to be, I don't know what this watering down is. You don't. Nobody does. So everybody's saying, oh my God, it's going to be terrible. Oh, you know, Boris is having to take a massive backward step on this. Well, maybe, maybe not. But from a point of view of developers, I don't think necessarily there's going to be a massive change, because a lot of the developers that I know of, certainly, are getting through the planning system. They're getting approvals. You see it all the time on social media. Yes, there are certain councils, and we're not going to go into that again. There are certain councils who are difficult. There are certain councillors, and it gets to this central government politics and local government politics. And there are certainly certain local councillors in some local planning authorities who are against development. It's also been purported that maybe we should use a lot more greenbelt space on the periphery of urban areas. That has merits for some areas, but not for others. So it is all about what is the quality of the housing that we're building? What's the quality of the location of this housing that we're building? And how do we manage that? I'm not convinced that a zoning system is the right way to go about it. And I'm not actually convinced that most house developers are convinced that that's the right way to go about it. Yes, the planning system is slow at the moment and could be speeded up, but there's all sorts of other ways of doing that rather than just using this zoning system, bringing in the zoning system. But I suspect the zoning system may be set aside for the time being. I don't think that's a bad thing. My concern is that they're still going to tweak the community infrastructure levy, which has not really worked since its inception and has been amended every year since. But if they start doing that, that will slow the process of development down. I don't know. I feel for the government because I don't know what the solution to all this stuff is.
Well, I mean, Linda, you've mentioned a couple of things there, and to pick up, you referred to some councils are not very good. Are you referring to that video we did with the bonkers decisions which have landed one council in court? Only this week we recorded that video. But to me, zoning as a developer is a good thing, because it immediately tells me, don't even try, don't even think about it. Just like the comments that the planners put on some of those applications in that video, don't even think about it. Don't go there. The planners are going to refuse you outright. It's not going to happen. But also, looking at it from a landowner's perspective, if you know you're in a development zone, all of a sudden that has uplifted the value of your land. Sadly, it works in the converse. If this is ring fence protected land, the value of your land has just gone down. So to me, I think it gives clarity and it makes the process easy. And I know there's a lot of people who subscribe and watch this channel, and they are perhaps less experienced than ourselves and at the start of their property investing career. And it would help them to actually know this is a no-go zone and this is a go zone. Because how many times have we been approached by people saying, I'd love to do this? We were having a chat just off camera about some southerners who bought something up north, and they developed it out, realized they need planning, and then the council gave them an outright flat refusal because they didn't understand the rules. They thought they could. I look at this, and James, the chief executive of Gleeson Homes, has said this is a missed opportunity. Now, I would agree with him. It's a missed opportunity to revamp the system. And then you look at Lichfields, our favorite planning consultancy, and they've said, if this is watered down, it just becomes piecemeal adjustments to the existing rules and regulations, then we're likely to just end up with problems and bad developments, and it's going to do more harm than good to the housing market. So Is it good that Boris is doing effectively a U-turn? Drop your comments below. What do you think? Is it good or is it bad? Linda, there's been a lot of chatter on the comments on this particular article in the FT, which we've got a link below. And by all means, drop us a comment on what your thoughts are. But Linda, do you agree with the comments that are coming forwards, or because I've seen some of your social media posts and they're very similar to some of them?
Yeah. There are two sides to this story, and I tend to agree with the guy from Lichfields who said, look, really, is this going to have that massive an impact? But if central government, everybody's saying, oh, it's Boris and it's Michael Gove. No, that's rubbish. Mr. Johnson might be getting a bit twitchy because of the loss of the election because of this stand. I doubt it was purely on the planning stand alone that this by-election was lost. I'm sure there were other election was lost. I'm sure there were other issues, but there are two sides to every story. If you start to tinker and tweak with little things, what that can have the effect of doing is slowing down the process. Yet again, we've seen this so many times over the last 20, 30 years. Equally, if you sort of raise everything to the ground and start again, that is going to mean all of the council planners learning new stuff, and that will slow the process down. So arguably, central government, not just Boris, but you see, this started 12 months ago. In the autumn last year, when the planning bill came out, Robert Jenrick was still in post. So it's no use throwing everything at Michael Gove, because bless him, he's just stepped into this and been handed the poison chalice. And I think
we've seen him as a NIMBY in this video.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore,
he's only himself to blame for that. If you're standing there holding a poster saying no development in the Greenbelt or whatever it said, you've only yourself to blame for that if you are a government minister.
Yeah.
So, but I think with the zoning issue, zoning or no zoning, I think if you have a zoning issue, and I appreciate what you're saying about it gives clarity and certainty, and yes, house developers will want to see that, but it's almost like playing planning poker. If you're playing planning poker, then you either win or you lose. So if you've got a site, or you can buy a site, you've got an option on a site to buy that suddenly becomes in a development zone, or whatever they're going to be called. There were 3 sections in the planning bill. I've even forgotten what they were. So if it's in a development zone where, hey, we're happy days, we're developing. But if you're a developer who has an option agreement on land that suddenly is taken out and is put into garden or conservation zone, so who wins and who loses? And these are big wins and big losses. So to do that, I think really it's a game of planning poker, and I don't think that is a good way to develop overall. I am still mourning, and I know people will say, oh, she's just an old fart, but I'm still mourning the loss of regional spatial strategies. Are
you talking Eric Pickles here?
God love him, Mr. Pickles. Well, not necessarily, but the concept of regional spatial strategies, I think was a good one. And I think a lot of what is being talked about now is regional spatial strategies by any other name. I think to assess an area purely from a housing point of view and look at the housing numbers and hand that down to NIMBYist councils and council members, I think that
or MPs. Or
MPs, indeed, yes. But I think just aiming all of this sort of bile at Boris Johnson and Michael Gove is wrong, because it's the whole team behind them, and this came in under Robert Jenrick. So I know I've talked all around the houses, but I feel,
no pun intended,
but I feel for developers, but developers are getting on with these things. Yes, they have to go to appeal on an increasing number of sites, but equally, if if this whole system is brought in and the zoning system is brought in, I suspect it will slow things down for years and years. And I am concerned about the community infrastructure levy tweaks and radical, they're not going to be tweaks, they're going to be radical changes. That is going to have an impact of slowing things down as well.
Well, Linda, thank you again. That was a brilliant analysis of the latest planning news about what is happening in changes to you as property investors and developers. Now, we love answering your questions, and we've got more questions and answers coming up shortly on video. So if you want to be the first one to hear other people's questions answered, or you've got your own question, drop it in the comments below and hit that like button, and by all means hit that share button as well and subscribe, and then you too will see those answers as they break straight from here. So for today, Linda, thank you very much. It's been a phenomenal interview again, and I love your wisdom, and I think our approach to this particular story has been Marmite. Some of us love it, some of us hate it. Goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Thank you for watching.